it's a ticket, talking Mazda for the biggest. That's a comma and a comma and a comma, gotta get it.
And it's a ticket, talking Mazda for the biggest. That's a comma and a comma and a comma, gotta get it. I'm a comma and a comma and a comma, gotta get it. Comma and a comma, gotta get it. And it's a ticket, talking Mazda for the biggest. That's a comma and a comma and a comma, gotta get it. I'm a comma and a comma and a comma, gotta get it. Comma and a comma, gotta get it. And it's a ticket, talking Mazda for the biggest. That's a comma and a comma.
Welcome everybody to another episode of Head to Head with Brian Parker. I am he. And we are joined by our panel tonight. We have Ms. Lori Parker. How you doing, Lori?
How you doing, Mr. Parker?
All for me. Huh? Nice. I felt that through the screen, baby. I'll see you a little later. Anyway, we also have Mr. C.J. Jones. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing very well. Thank you. Thank you.
As much as we can expect for a Cowboys fan. So
keep it up.
We have Mr. Michael Berry. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing very well. How's everybody else?
Beautiful. It's a little chilly, but it ain't snowing. So I'm good. And last but not least, normally it would be me introducing our franchise, but he cannot be with us today. But we will still linger on anyway, and we will be able to do that because of all of our panelists. But we'll also be able to do it especially because we have the man who loves losing teams more than anybody in the world. He loves those LA Rams. He loves those New York Knicks.
Oh, Lord Jesus.
It's none other than Mr. Brad Carlton. How you doing, sir?
Fear the blue and orange. The Knicks are back. We heard everything y'all said over the last 10 years. You're coming and you're going to pay what you owe.
Hey, what you...
Them sound like fighting words.
That's what I'm saying.
Boy, you've been watching one too many Boondocks, bro. One too many Boondocks.
In the words of Riley, you're going to pay what you owe.
Pay what you owe.
There are truly some Knicks fans that were not alive the last time the Knicks went to the playoffs. Anyway,
Last I checked and everything, I think the Knicks were number 2 in New York, right? See, Mike, I love you, Mike. You know, I love you madly. But here's the deal. Your team has to get to the playoffs first.
Oh.
Y'all have to get to the playoffs first and hopefully all show up during the games. And y'all haven't won anything yet. If we get a couple of them there, it'll be good.
Well, you guys tried. Brooklyn tried to stack the deck, and then Marcus Aldridge, we wish him all the best. He had to retire because of
one by one
too many complications with his
one by one
regular heartbeat. So we wish him the best. He's played a long 15 years and had that issue, and it got to a point where he just didn't want to push it anymore. So we wish him the best, but that does take a chess piece away from the beloved Brooklyn Nets. But I mean, they still got Harden, Kyrie, KD. And Griffin, yeah. So,
no, wait, is it Harden out indefinitely? Next week he'll be back. Don't worry about it. I mean, he may not come back. He may not come back until the playoffs, and if he'll be back by the playoffs, most definitely. All right, I'm not mad at y'all.
I mean, don't bitch. I mean, LeBron do the same thing. He sits out a lot of games during the regular season and then comes back during the playoffs. So, I think that's just kind of how they do it now. It'd be nice to sit there and you get paid for 82 games and only have to play 50 of them. That's a nice setup. That's pretty nice setup.
He's kind of earned that. He's earned that. He's built for the playoffs.
I mean, I've been working for 30 years and I ain't earned that.
Well, you're not LeBron. I mean, and I'm a LeBron. I'm a LeBron hater, but
hey,
I mean, I got a little PTO time. I'm just saying, but
But have your ass back at work on Monday.
You better bring your black ass to work.
That's right.
Yeah, buddy.
PTO.
Choose your rate, choose your fate.
most of the time when black folk don't show up to work, it's not a good situation, but somehow they can make it do. So anyway, y'all, obviously, since the last show, we have had closing arguments by the defense and the prosecution in the Derek Chauvin murder trial of George Floyd. And the one thing that I remember saying to Lori is that if it's a quick deliberation, then that's always good for the prosecution. If it takes a long, long time, then that means that they're going back and forth a lot, and you may end up either with a hung jury or partially hung, where there's 3 counts. Maybe they agree on one of the lesser ones and find a hard time coming to a conclusion on the bigger charges and everything. So my mind was playing out that and the closing arguments were insane. We're talking about like 5 freaking hours for this crap shot defense attorney to throw out. I mean, there's that saying, throw everything against the wall to see what's going to stick. He threw his mama on the wall to see she would stick. He threw everything on that wall.
Bro.
It could be this, it could be that. I'm like, damn. I mean, it could have been a whole lot of stuff to kill George Floyd. It just ain't had nothing to do with Derek Chauvin. I'm like, damn. But so
it was the weather.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you know, he just happened to walk and it was raining that day, and that killed him because he had a bad heart. But you know, one of the lines that I think was really, really that touched me in the closing argument from the prosecution is when he said, you know, they blamed George Floyd for having his heart was too big. And they said that ain't what killed him. It was Derek Chauvin because his heart was too small. And that really hit me because
I love that one.
Metaphorically speaking, that's really what it comes down to. And it really comes down to that from a lot of ways, in that people keep talking about training. You can't train somebody to give a crap about a human being. That's not training. And the fact that the jury sat there and was not swayed by the herky-jerky defense, coming up with all of these excuses and everything else, saw right through it. The prosecution said, look, what you saw is what you saw. You know, it's a lot of times when there's no videotape and they automatically take the police's account. And thank God that they didn't, because if any of y'all saw the original account, had our 17-year-old hero, Darnella Frazier, not taped that, they would have went with this whole thing about there was a medical incident and he died in police custody. And they put out a whole statement about it and everything. And had the chief not seen the actual video and stuff like that, and she not taped it, then none of this really would have happened. But I remember hearing that the verdict was in, and they gave them about over an hour notice so that businesses could board up and everybody could make it back and all that kind of stuff. I was like, oh man, this is going to be probably somewhat good, because they only deliberated for a little over 10 hours. That's not enough time to have a hung jury. Normally a hung jury is after a couple of days where they like banging heads, and it's like, so I felt pretty optimistic that something was going to happen. But again, we so used to thinking that something's in the bag. It's that Charlie Brown Lucy situation where you think you're about to kick that football and she snatches it away from you at the last minute and it just breaks your heart. So even up until the judge is opening the paper and reading it, that doubt is still there. And he started reading it, and the first time he said guilty, just chills went through my spine. The second guilty, tears started coming out. The third one, I almost had to pull off the road because I was driving. And it was real.
I was driving.
And it was because, I mean, I had the volume up, I was listening. And what was so striking was the way the judge read it. He just read it like it was nothing. He was just reading. I mean, there was no pause. There was no inflection of his tone. He just flat out read it. And the charge, the jury finds him guilty, And he just kept going like he was just reading something off a page. Like it didn't have that bang, but to me, it cut every single time he said the word guilty deep, because it was almost like finally
He was reading it like.
Yeah, he was
Yeah,
just reading it like
he was
on
reading
newspaper.
it almost like he was expecting it. Like that's the look that he had on his face. Like I heard it like you. I was on the road, but when I went back and looked at the video, he was reading it like you saying like da 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 da. Like okay, I'm not surprised.
Yeah, and I'm sure before he read it out loud, he saw what it said, so he wasn't surprised and everything. But you know, just the moment, and it's sad that so much was weighing on this moment. It felt more than just a trial of one police officer and one dead African American man. It felt like the culmination of year after year after year after year, decade after decade after decade of disappointment, where Black folks can't be believed when they say police are being a little too crazy with their use of force. You know, because the question always is, well, what did you do to make them kill you? And that's what the defense tried to go back to is that if for not you doing what you did, you wouldn't be dead. So, you know, so the fact that 12 people finally agreed that an officer who people hold in such regard and give them so much latitude about what they do, they got to make these in the moment decisions, split second decisions. How dare you question them? Their job isn't easy. If they hesitate, then they could be the ones that die and everything else. And if you simply comply, then it will work out better for you. You know, all those kind of things. And I'm just expecting it's just somehow, some way or another, he gonna get away. He gonna get away. And Brad, you flat out said he's done. And I said to you, I said, I hope you are right. I wanted to believe it because the evidence was too overwhelming. Anybody, you know, it was funny because the defense attorney kept using the phrase reasonable officer. Any reasonable officer, use of force. And I kept thinking, but you're assuming all officers are reasonable. And it's like, it doesn't matter what the hell he does, because he's an officer, he's always going to be reasonable. So if he felt the need to put his knee on his neck, there had to be a reasonable reason for doing it, which made absolutely no sense. So
that's the cover story.
I'm glad the jury, because I kind of felt like the defense attorney was really insulting their intelligence by almost making them believe that what they saw didn't have anything to do with why George Floyd is no longer here. So,
right.
What do you guys think? I think it was a good outcome.
Yeah, they did the same thing with the Rodney King case. They told you that what you saw didn't actually happen because we're going to slow the tape down and show you bit by bit, frame by frame. You didn't see 5 officers beating the hell out of a defenseless man on the ground. You saw this beast on the ground trying to get up, trying to attack. But in this case, it was they had no comeback. There was nothing they can do or say. I mean, we all seen the tape, and the tape spoke volumes in the courtroom itself. There was nothing they could do to manipulate the tape. There was no defense witnesses they could have brought on to refute what everybody saw, and they brought in officer after officer after officer saying, "No, we don't train that. We don't teach that. This guy's dirty. He's not part of the blue. He's not part of our family. This is not what we do over here." They gave him up, and it just felt like, and I'm glad, right? It's not like, you know, it could have gone either way. It really could have gone either way. We've seen it go the other way most of our history. You know, we talked about the officer who was dragged off the bus and blinded for the rest of his life by the police in South Carolina. We saw that. We talked about that. Mm-hmm. So I'm glad it happened this way, but I'm not celebrating because it should not have to be this blatant to get police convicted of wrongdoing. It should not have to. If it's this level, then we're in trouble. I mean, we're back, right back to where we were. I mean, we've made no progress at all.
Yeah. You know, it's kind of like celebrating a regular season win, but you still ain't gonna go to the playoffs. I ain't really linking anything as far as like the Knicks or nothing or the Cowboys. I'm just saying that it's like you have that moment of glee and jubilation, but then you realize that the bigger prize still hasn't been obtained because, like I said last week, I have no confidence that, I said, you know, even if they find him guilty, even on all 3 charges, is not going to change the culture of policing. It's not going to be a deterrent to the next officer that says, I see this black person as a threat. He ain't armed. Hell, he might not even be conscious, but he's still a threat, and I'm going to eliminate that threat. As the announcement was about to come down, you know, a 16-year-old teenager lost her life. Now, there's going to be a lot of arguments about, hey, Brian, you know, she was an aggressor. She had a weapon. She was trying to harm somebody else. What was the officer supposed to do?
She called the police to have, because some girls were starting fights in front of her home. And that's why, but he just shot her based on the body cam video.
He can't show up though, Lori, and say, which one of y'all called the police when there's something actually going on. But yeah, she had a knife.
And could have been killed, and she could have killed the other girl. So
she could have killed the other girl. So the question now isn't, was she wrong for having the knife? Obviously, you're going to put yourself in a position for you. Now you're leaving it up to the police officer to determine the level of threat and what he has to respond with to take that threat away. Now, there's a lot of people that say, why didn't you shoot her in the leg? The explanation that I've always heard from that, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, CJ, is that legs and arms are smaller targets, and that if you miss, you could actually cause more harm than good, because the bullet can still travel, potentially hit somebody else, and now the officer is going to be charged with wanton force or whatever, because it now hit somebody else, like they did with Breonna Taylor. You know, the officer got in trouble not because they filled up her house with bullets, but because one of them went in somebody else's house. You know, so they have to go for the bigger target, which is normally the body. So that's why you end up with these center mass. Now, the other question is going to be, did it take 4 bullets? Did you fire one and it didn't stop her and she kept going and you had to fire 3 more? Or did you try to tase her first, and because the taser didn't slow her down, then did you have to pull out your service weapon? Or did you feel like you didn't have time to try to tase first and then do your service weapon? All those things are going to have to come out, but she didn't make it easier by having the knife in the first place. Now you left it up to his discretion. That is more of a split-second decision.
Now, here we go, y'all. This is our law enforcement lesson for this week.
And that's why
by definition, okay? You please look it up, Google it, however you have to do it. We used to have to recite the definition of deadly force even before we got armed up, before every shift. So not only do you have to recite it, you have to tell the armorer what it means. So so the immunity, the implied immunity is out the door. It doesn't matter. We want to make sure that before you arm yourself for that day, for that shift, that you really going to exhaust every and all means before you use deadly force. With that being said, guys, even for the little bit of seconds that I saw it, the video of the body cam from the officer, when those are those situations where whenever I share with you guys and I say, sometimes the situation itself looks so gruesome, but the officer themselves don't have but like a split second to think. He does not know what he's rolling up on. Okay, it's gonna sound like I'm playing both sides, but just be patient with me and hear me out. I come up, I'm responding. I just see people pouring out of a house. To your point, Lori, I don't know who called me readily, but I am trained to look at people's hands. I see and perceive a threat, I know that I have to protect myself, my partner, and other people around me. That does call for the presence of a firearm. That is justified. Opportunity, capability, and intent. All three were met. The opportunity was the situation itself. The capability was the presence of the knife. The intent was the lunging. So all three were met. So lawfully, the firearm was called for. Now, given my skill set and my confidence in me, I would have deployed my taser. But since we're talking law and what is lawfully, the firearm is justified. What is not so justified is, to your point, Brian, was the amount or the repetition of firing. Again, Brian, you hit it dead on the head. You must have been studying. I'm very proud of you. Yes. Collateral damage is something that we also teach. You not only consider your target, but you also consider what's behind your target. So yes, even though you would think shoot in the arm, shoot it in the leg. I heard Joy off of The View says fire one in there. I was like, oh my God, no, don't ever do that. What goes up comes down. All right, so you got to think about, I said that with comedy, you like to break the tension, but yeah, so I understand the humanity of it all, okay? But this is what makes us different from everybody else. And I say us, I'm talking my brothers and sisters in arms that really do have every good intention on doing their jobs. And we are forced, unfortunately, to take a life. And it's nothing that you brag about. It's nothing that you're proud of. So, but in his case, he can even argue, because I was listening to the repetition, the rhythm of it. Pop, 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 pop. He didn't even stop. You know what I'm saying? It was not a break. So even with the 4 shots, quote unquote, it could be considered an overkill. So they're going to really dissect that. But it's kind of like a person, and again, we're not giving any excuses. We're just laying down facts. And we're talking about what is lawful, not morally right just yet. So what is lawful was the deployment of his firearm, and what they're going to really scrutinize was the repetition of the 4 rounds that came out of his firearm. We are all trained as as officers to pop, pop, center mass. Your adrenaline kicks in. It takes over. Sometimes in his mind, he probably thought he only popped off 2 rounds. Mm-hmm. That's why in the background, you can hear his partner say, where's she hit? He did follow procedure. Mm-hmm. All of that's muscle memory. That is how we're trained. Pop, 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 or however many you think, and you go immediately into first aid.
Right.
Y'all, I'm telling you, my heart is so heavy, but he did actually follow training and procedure. That is proper protocol as a police officer.
Right.
So I do kind of have a problem with the 4 rounds, but it wasn't grossly excessive. It was excessive, but I'm listening to the rhythm of the rounds.
It wasn't 40 shots and all you had in your hand was your wallet. So we've come a little bit ways, because at least you ain't getting hit. But there was only 1 officer. I think when
right, he did not empty his magazine.
It was a couple of them.
Right, because it wasn't like that. That was back in the day. I think it was in New York.
It was.
But he actually changed out. He actually changed out magazines.
Yeah, Sean.
Y'all, come on.
No, not
So,
Sean Bell and Lori. We're talking about I'm due.
I'm gonna do
Oh yes, I
Yeah,
believe
yeah,
so.
it was. Yeah, it was
He
years ago.
he had a wallet in his hand,
One
and
in
they
his
kept trying to
hand,
shoot. He
and
thought it was a
right.
gun.
they kept firing.
He
Yes, I
actually
apologize.
changed out magazines. Yeah, that was complete BS. All right, so 4 rounds, that's a bit much for me to swallow, but at the same time, I'm really am breaking this video down, guys, and it's the rhythm. If he would have broke rhythm, if it would have been pop, 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 then nah, because then you would have to say, okay, was the threat neutralized? And see, and that's another thing, guys. Never ever a well-trained officer will ever say, we are trained to kill. You won't ever hear that.
No.
What you will hear a really trained officer say is that we are trained to stop the threat, to neutralize the threat. Now, death may occur, but that was not my purpose, was to never to kill.
Right.
Okay.
So and apparently it is protocol. They do teach you to fire until the threat is neutralized. The question is, could it have been neutralized with one shot? Because to your point, neutralizing doesn't mean death necessarily. It could be a result of that. So if she was neutralized after one shot, immobilized, stopped her from lunging, but then could have still performed services that could have brought her back, kept her from dying.
That's what I'm questioning, guys. That is the only part that I'm questioning.
Right.
But he did it in such a continuum. When you watch Muscle Memory, that's what it should look and feel like. He went from one to the other. And I didn't catch any break in that.
Because CJ, here's the problem. Here's the problem I have. And here's the problem that a lot of folks are having is that anytime there's an officer involved shooting, because of the history, because of things that have happened in the past, everybody's going to instantly be, well, not everybody, people that look like me are going to be skeptical about what led to that. Everything is going to be questioned and critiqued because of the systemic issues that we've had. The issue that I personally have isn't the fact that she was the aggressor. Should the threat have been neutralized? Absolutely, because his purpose was to save people's lives. We can't discount that. So in his mind, that's maybe what he's doing. But here's my problem, and nobody's going to be able to answer it fully, but because what I normally systemically see too, though, is that when it's a white person with an AR-15 and they need to neutralize the threat, somehow that some bitch get to go home or he go to jail.
Well, stop that, Mr. Kyle Rittenhouse. We all know that you can do that. And same thing with Mr. Robert Long.
So how did they figure out how to neutralize these threats?
That's what they're going to be.
People walk away without getting a bag getting zipped up in a bag.
That's what they're going to be comparing. I was looking at some comments just here on the tablet. Someone said it doesn't even matter. It's still open season on black and brown people. I can't argue that. I can't argue that, and I cannot. To your point, I can't argue that, because like you have your Kyle Rittenhouses, you have your Robert Longs out there, you have your Dylan Roos. He was treated to Burger King after killing 9 people in a church.
Because killing niggas can't get an appetite going. Just saying.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You know, so I mean, and then the other one got
makes me hungry every time.
You had the captain of the police department said, "Oh, my man just had a bad day." So I mean, come on, y'all. I mean, y'all can y'all only imagine how somebody like me feel? Because not only am I a black guy, so I can relate like that, but I'm also a police officer. Well, I'm sorry, former police officer. And I know what it's like on both sides. I'm torn. I'm completely torn. I mean, even like right now, like my hands and stuff are shaking. Like I cried all over again. I cried when I heard the verdict. Just like you, I had to pull the car to the side because I was so overwhelmed with emotion there. But then I turn around and I heard about this, and I'm just like, oh my God. So yeah, I mean, I don't right about now, y'all, man. I mean, honestly, I'm trying to hold back tears from just even trying to educate my circle of people right now, because you know, I know what we're going to do as a society. You know, I know how we're going to react, and I know how we're going to hypothesize everything about this situation. But in this particular case, there is a world of justification, and then there's a world of right and wrong. On the legal side, he is that the deployment of firearms was justified, but was it really right? And that's how we look at it as society. Was it really right?
Yeah, totally agree. What you thinking, Mr. Berry?
What am I thinking? Okay,
What are you thinking?
let's go back to the trial for a minute.
Yeah.
I was talking to my wife about it a little earlier today, and she said that she was happy that the verdict, it came down the way that it did.
Mm-hmm.
I said, yeah. I don't know if that's the way that I felt, because George Floyd is still dead. So I can't be happy and everything that what should have happened in this case actually happened. I would say that I'm relieved that this officer got what he deserved and everything and was found guilty on all charges. But that doesn't erase the fact that George Floyd is dead. It doesn't erase the fact that Lisa Hawkins died, Rodney King, Amadou Diallo, as we mentioned. It doesn't change anything in the past.
Yeah.
Is it going to change anything going forward? Who can say at this point? It still looks like it has to be like a completely open and shut case and everything for us to have even that much justice.
Yeah.
So I'm still not happy, but I am relieved.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I totally get it, because I mean, you know, his family has some sense of closure to an extent, because at least they don't think, you know, we went up with probably one of the biggest open and shut cases, and you know, justice wasn't served. But to your point, you know, they don't bring George back, but in some ways, he ain't die in vain. You know, there was a whole lot of marching, there was a whole lot of outrage that resulted, a lot more than I was expecting, because it was coming from a lot of people that in the past would not have been marching out there with us, that it really struck a nerve. But it was because of just the amount of brutality. That was too much for a lot of people. Like, they put up with a lot of shit that got done to us a lot of times. But that, and him just looking so confident that wasn't nothing gonna happen to him, staring into the camera with that damn smirk on his face. I hope every day he's in prison, they put something in his mouth so he can't smirk. I pray to God he keep dropping the soap and see how much smirking he can do in jail. To sit there knowing that you're treating another human being like a dog, to look into a camera, your hands in your pocket and that smirk on your face, carry that smirk with you for the next 20 years, dog. That's what I'm saying. But it's just crazy. You're right. That's why I said it was almost like it wasn't the state of Minnesota versus Derek Chauvin. It was like Derek Chauvin and every mistreated person of color that has been mistreated by the police. Everything hinged on that, where, you know, now there a lot of our right-wing people are out there saying, well, the only reason that the jury came back so quick is because they were afraid of all the unrest that was going to happen. You damn right. I mean, they're trying to make it seem like the jury got bullied, you know, which is really an insult to the jury. Anybody with half a brain could have seen that George Floyd got lynched right on TV. But what they're doing is they're trying to conflate it by saying, Well, but if they had come back with a not guilty verdict, people would have been upset. Of course, if you saw a crime and somebody get away with it, that would piss you off. Yeah, we probably gonna burn some shit down. So yeah, they probably was a little afraid about that if they didn't do the right thing. Basically, what would have happened? It's not an equal thing to go, well, if they would have found them guilty, everybody's happy. If they would have found them not guilty, they'd be ready to tear some stuff down. Okay, isn't that what the right wingers are doing? Because they found them guilty, now they mad? Somebody always gonna be mad for whatever reason. But if you can sit there and be mad that Derek Chauvin got pretty much what he deserved, then I don't really know what to say about you. Now here comes the hard part. The sentencing is in 8 weeks. I'm sorry, Lori.
Yes, I just wanted to add my own personal thoughts about when the verdict came down.
Please do.
I literally sat on my bed, and as I was watching it and as it was read, I was in tears. I was just like Michael. I was relieved that at least he was found guilty. But at the same token, I started thinking about, well, if it has to be as blatant as it was to show that this man died because this man had his knee on his neck for 9 minutes and that stopped him from breathing. So what's going to happen next? And then I started to become, I guess, as a woman and as a wife, you become a little bit worried. Sometimes you're out driving. I started thinking about you if you got stopped. I even, on my non-driving self, I had to drive today, and I made sure before I left home today, I took down any air fresheners, anything that I had hanging, because I just felt that anxiety that, oh gosh, if I'm stopped, am I going to make it home today? I'm just going down the street, and it's just very nerve-wracking as a person, as a woman, as an African-American woman, or even a person of color, that I now feel that in addition to having this target on our back always, but now we need to come up, not even just we need to have our own body cams, because it just needs to show that the length of what we need to show in order for us to get what is right and what they need to be accountable for is just mind-blowing.
Yep. So now we've got 8 weeks to wait for the sentencing. Chauvin decided not to let the jury determine his prison sentence because he probably figured that the judge would be a little bit more lenient towards a police officer. They're talking about it could be up to 40 years with the most severe charge, because typically what happens is there's a lot of different sentencing guidelines out there, but when there's 3 different charges, there's different things that could happen. Mm-hmm. Most of the time they will run the charges concurrent, which means they all run together. So if the longest charge is 20 years and there's another charge in there for 5 years, they don't make it 25, they just make it for the full 20, and then he serves them all together. But, if somebody real ticks off the judge, he could make it consecutive, where you got to do one, then you do the other one, and then you do the other one. Like if you murdered a bunch of children and stuff, they may give you 20 consecutive life sentences and stuff like that, which is overkill because you can't serve that many. But most of the time they'll run them concurrently. And because he's never been convicted of a crime, he's going to end up on the lighter end, where he could get as little as 12 years, 12 to 15 years. Now, the prosecution is seeking some other mitigating circumstances because he did do this in front of minors, and because it was such a brutal, violent act, that they may call those like little accelerators into the sentencing guidelines. But he has to be very, very careful, because if he goes too crazy with it, it's undoubtedly going to go to an appeals court regardless of the sentencing. But so that he makes it appear that he has been fair from the beginning to the very end, including the sentencing, he's going to have to be very, very careful with the sentencing. So you may see Chauvin get as little as 12 to 15 years. He's only, 47, I believe? So he'd be out in his 60s. unless, and then he can also probably get credit for time he's already been in. He can get credit for good behavior and things like that. So yeah, he could be out relatively quickly.
He was fired, correct?
He
He
was.
was fired.
He won't have that eligibility for his
Him and the
pension.
other 3 people were fired once the chief actually saw the video.
The cameras, yeah.
Yeah.
I think in
the one thing
Minnesota
that they were. Go ahead. I'm sorry, B.
I'm sorry. No, I think in Minnesota, I think he may be allowed to keep his pension.
Wow.
That's what they're arguing right now, Brad.
Right.
That's what
I'm
they're
not sure.
arguing.
Yeah,
Even though
he was fired, but because he was fired,
I don't know.
He did not resign, not even forcibly resigned. That makes grounds for argument. So again, it'll be interesting to watch.
Okay, so maybe I'm talking about the other case in Minnesota.
Oh no,
they resigned.
She's eligible.
Both of them resigned, so they may be pension eligible.
But they don't have to accept her resignation, though.
Yeah, he didn't accept it. Yeah, he didn't accept
it. That resignation was not accepted. So now they have grounds to kind of play with.
Because what they're gonna insinuate, rightfully so, is that she tried to quit before she got fired.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Pension. So they'll probably
just like Chauvin's wife. And as soon as they said that, I don't know if y'all recall this or not, but I call this one too. Me and my wife was sitting there watching TV. We just so happened to see it. But whenever the video first came out of George Floyd's murder, and they was trying to make the wife look good by saying, "Oh, as soon as she heard about the situation, she filed for divorce." I said, "Don't fall for that bullshit." I said she did not do that because she was so disgusted. Number one, she's Laos, and if you know anything about Laos women, especially when they marry American, they marry for the money and they marry for the benefits, and they do help.
Okay.
They do help.
I'm not touching that one.
They do. I can because I'm Navy. I can and I will. I can and I will. Because I have plenty of friends that married Laos, Philippine, Vietnamese. I can and I will speak on it.
Sound like you've been a little bit closer to some Laos women.
Oh, Navy. But anyway, so I've witnessed it, okay? And I told my wife then, I said, that's a show. Yeah. Because the only thing she was trying to do was protect their asset. It's a smart business move. It's a Trump move. I'm going to hurry up and file bankruptcy so they won't take everything because they got you on video, fool.
Right.
So now she's being pursued by the IRS for, I think it was a couple thousands of dollars that they were, just like Trump, didn't account for to make themselves look a lot less rich.
Yeah.
So you can pull but so much from them. It was a business move. It wasn't a moral move.
Well, no, because I'm pretty sure she knew what a piece of crap he was before he did all of that.
Yeah, she knew exactly what she was marrying. He knew exactly what she was marrying.
He didn't wake up that morning and all of a sudden he became who we saw on camera. I think, who you are.
I get up and close and personal with stuff like that. You can see stuff like that coming a mile away. All you gotta do is just pay attention.
Yeah. So here's the thing now. The sentencing will be in 8 weeks, and then in August, the Floyd family is going to have to relive this all over again because then the 3 other officers are then going to be on trial. Their charges, I believe, are a little less, but it is the fact that they sat there and just watched this unfold.
They should be charged as accessories.
Now, the challenge for the prosecution, couple of challenges is that now the defense has seen the prosecution's arguments, they've heard from the witnesses, and it may give them an opportunity to mount a better defense than this sucky one that this guy tried to do by throwing everything against the wall. The other thing that they're going to try to argue, lean into, was that Chauvin was the senior officer and that two of the officers, it was only their fourth shift as officers. And Chauvin had actually been one of their FTOs. Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
And,
now I'm sorry, but
no,
you know I'm gonna jump in this one.
I know you would.
Okay. FTO or not, once you have been certified to go solo or go on or partner up, it does not matter who comes on your scene. Okay.
You don't defer to your senior?
No. Look, check it out.
All right.
You and I, Lori, we are junior to Brian. Okay, but we are partnered up. We get called out. Okay, it's our scene, and it doesn't matter who you or I make first contact, because your first contact officer is your primary officer. He is your primary officer. You remember I told y'all that before when we was first breaking this thing down. I was like, wait a minute, hold up. Chauvin wasn't even the primary officer, but they are going to lean on it. Go, oh, he's senior, so he took it over. No, it's your scene. This is your contact. This is your call. This is your incident number. Because he can go in and out. He can corrupt your whole entire scene and slide back out. And guess who's stuck with it? You are, because you were the first one on the scene. Mm-hmm. You were the arresting officer. Chauvin was the backup that took it over and that killed George.
But I mean, I think that's getting into the guts of police work.
Yes.
I don't think that's going to play out here. I think it's going to play out that this guy was a rogue. He acted on his own. These guys were
okay. So they're going to go for
I think they're going to get off.
He took it over.
He did his own thing. They were clearly intimidated by this grizzled officer. He was the Denzel Washington in Training Day.
Oh, but you know what? But your boy,
they even said to him. They even said,
"But your boy Tal
over, sir." Like they were afraid of him. They were.
But Tal wasn't. Matter of fact, Tal was backing him up. So his foot is in his mouth. Yeah, Tal took the stand.
But I think the question.
I didn't realize.
Yeah, but isn't it more so going to be, okay, I understand that you felt some deference to this man, but you see here again, this is why I say this whole crap about officers need more training is bullshit.
Yeah,
because if you see another, and here's the other thing that I think is a bunch of bullshit, is when they say that there's only a few bad apples and there's other good cops. Man, there were no good cops there, because if you watch a bad cop do bad shit and you don't stop him, you're a bad cop.
Exactly.
Full stop. Exactly. Just because you ain't the one with your knee on his neck didn't make you any better. Because training or no training, the amount of human decency to say, dude, get off of him. He ain't even moving.
That's why baby girl lost her job 2 years ago. Right. Upstate, y'all, come on. Right. That's y'all girl. That's y'all girl. New York.
So this
just got her job back. They just had to pay her back pay off of her pension because she did the right thing. She stopped her
20 years ago.
Ex-partner. She stopped her ex-partner from using
choking somebody out.
Force.
Right.
From choking somebody out. He punched her in the face. Right. I mean, you're talking about cracks in the blue wall, right? So it happened, and this all came to light. Back then, the whole department stood behind him. They weren't behind this young, fresh black girl who's no, he punched her in the face. Like he hit her. She got fired. So
she got fired.
Him. So you're talking about cracks and chips in the blue wall, and I don't know, man. I don't think much is going to happen to those officers. Tal, I don't know about him.
Tal put his foot in his mouth.
But those other two,
as soon as I saw him go on that podium, I was like, oh yeah, that's your nail in your coffin. So yeah, go ahead, take the stand. Yeah, go ahead, take it.
I didn't realize he testified. Okay.
Yeah.
Do you guys think though that because of how quickly the jury came back with Chauvin's verdict, that there's a possibility that some of these other cops that are about to get tried in August may come up to the prosecution and say, "Hey, I'll tell you what,
Reduce my sentence.
Plea deal.
let's
Plea
make a
deals?
deal."
Yes.
Is it
Oh, yeah.
really gonna go? Are all of them gonna go to trial, or do you think some of them gonna go ahead and say, you know what? I know I'm gonna be on the hook for something. What can you give me that's gonna be better than that something?
Absolutely, they are going to take a plea.
And I'll start singing because now other officers already testified against Chauvin, so that, like you said, that blue wall is already cracked. So there's no incentive for me now to keep my mouth shut because blue wall is already cracked in that case. Now it's all about self-preservation because I'm too cute to go to jail, or I'm gonna be in SEG. I'm gonna be in SEG the whole time because they can't put an officer in Gen Pop because he gonna get popped. Yeah, that's true. So I think some of them gonna try to make a deal. Now the whole thing about making a deal though is, what do you have to offer?
Yeah.
You just can't say I'm gonna make a deal. Okay, well, we already got the big fish, which was Chauvin. So what you got?
Yeah.
But wouldn't they be able to offer information? I know with the federal probe into looking at Minnesota, but they could be standing as witnesses and then again offer us a plea deal. Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
So they can
because they're about to uncover a lot of dirt, Lord. They're about to uncover a lot of dirt.
Yeah.
I don't think they have much to offer, especially the new guys. They don't have much.
To your point, Brad, they ain't been there that long. You don't know nothing.
Yeah, you don't know that. So yeah, they don't have nothing to offer.
What could you know?
But when it comes to that federal probe,
you obviously didn't know that a man putting his knee on somebody's neck for 9 minutes and 29 seconds was wrong. What the hell do you know?
No, they knew that was wrong. They knew that was wrong, but they didn't. I mean, he was the alpha male in that situation. He was
right.
He was in charge, and they knew it. They knew what he was doing was wrong. They heard the same thing that we heard on the tape. They knew it was wrong, but they weren't going to fuck with him. They weren't going to check this dude because that's his personality.
And that's the crazy thing. They would rather be afraid of him and let somebody needlessly die.
Yes, Joe Sergeant. That's right. Yes, Joe Sergeant. That's right.
They can also give, even though they may not have been on the force as long, but they can also give, not to talk about any training, but then to set the stage about what's happening in that particular precinct, or how Chauvin was the alpha male, and how certain people and how they like it. For me, it looks like it's going to show a precedence.
Right. It will.
Lori, I'm gonna be honest with you.
It will.
And I know the prosecution used this to convince the jury that, hey, this isn't about, we ain't against policing. This is about Derek Chauvin and Derek Chauvin only. Now, they had to say that, but they was full of crap. It is about policing. And I honestly believe that if that probe from the federal government goes the way that it should, you're going to find out that Chauvin was not rogue at all.
No.
They basically gave him up to try to take the light off of them, but when the light get cast back on them, you gonna see how rogue Derek Chauvin wasn't. How they all talk about, oh no, we ain't trained to do that. Well, they don't put that kind of training in a book. But when you riding like you is on training day, and he really breaking it down to you how it really is.
That was a good analogy, Brad. That was a very good analogy.
That is exactly what happens. They have those conversations in that patrol car about, okay, I know what
this is how we really do it.
I know what they told you in the academy. You leave that shit at the academy because that'll get you killed. This is what you do when you out there. When you see that black person and his hands is in his pocket, you assume that he has a gun.
What black person?
And you take him out before he take you out. King Kong ain't got nothing on me. Sorry,
what black person? You mean niggas?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what they are. I mean, because that's what they'll say.
When you see them, that is a threat. Why? Because it's them. I don't care if they're 13 years old. Adam Toledo is a 13-year-old man. Tamir Rice was a 13-year-old man as well.
Yes,
it's funny.
And that's the issue with over policing, is because if you pull over enough people, if you look hard enough, there's crime everywhere. If you look hard enough and
shooting fish in a barrel
cars, you're going to find things that are wrong. So if the feds come in, when the feds come in, they go page by page. They take their time. This is not going to be over in 30 days. This is going to be a long investigation, and they're going to find shit. But they can find shit in any police department.
Yeah, pretty much.
It's urban or suburban. They're going to find it.
It's shooting fish in a barrel.
The numbers
you
are
can literally go like this.
Right. The numbers
and you're gonna hit something. Yeah,
right.
Good point, CJ.
20% of the population, but 60% of all of your stops are black people. 60% of all of your stops. That's ridiculous.
And that is because of the system. That came out of the words of the governor and the senator that was at my young guy's services today. And my mouth about hit the floor because I was surprised that this white woman actually went up on that podium and actually called a spade a spade. I was floored. She was like, you cannot say that these things are isolated incidents. This is systematic racism profile. And I was like, white woman said that.
It is.
Wow.
And the crazy thing, CJ, is that it's all because of money.
Yeah.
Because if you think about the way this criminal justice system works, it's not designed for you to go to court and have juries and shit like that. It's for you to get arrested, plea it out, and go to jail.
Yeah.
That's the system. The system isn't even for you to have your day in
jail.
They talk about blind justice and having your day in court. It ain't designed for you to go to court. It's designed for you to plea out to a lesser offense, then go to jail. Then the state receives X amount of thousands of dollars a year for you occupying the jail cell. It's a money thing. Then when you get out, what do you have to do? Pay fines, pay fees, pay retribution, pay your parole officer, all these other kind of things that they still get money.
Pay.
Everything's a ticket.
That's why whenever I was incarcerated, I paid my debt to society. That's where that comes from. You are literally paying your debt to society.
Yes, and it is a debt. Because that's what they do. They hearken on the people that they know can't pay. You can't bond, you can't bail yourself out. Now a lot of these Republican states are trying to pass laws that you can't bail yourself out before your court date because they want you to stay in jail.
Yeah.
They're passing laws now to basically say you can't bail out. What? I gotta stay till my court date? Or your first court date, not like the entire time. But like, so say for instance you get
your arraignment
on the weekend, and you can't bail out over the weekend. You got to stay all the way through. Just stupid stuff like that. Like you can't post bail.
No,
you can't go see a magistrate until following week or whatever, and then get a bail set and then post your bail and stuff like that, or get released on your own reconnaissance. You can't do that. They're trying to pass stuff like this now, and it's all money. All of it is money, and they try to get this money from the people that can afford to pay it to keep you down in poverty. And what does poverty do? Makes people desperate. What does it do? It sets and cultivates crime. What does crime do? Get you caught, get you clean out, get you put right back in prison. It's a recurring cycle.
Shuts down your life.
That's what it comes down to. So there is an over-policing issue, even though they didn't make that a factor. They didn't have to in the Derek Chauvin thing because it was so blatantly brutal that they could just lean into that more. They didn't have to worry about the aspect of the over-policing. Now, when the feds come in, they're probably going to find the evidence of that.
Yes.
Of all the systemic racism and stuff. But I'm telling you right now, Derek Chauvin was not a lone wolf. Derek Chauvin was not rogue. They decided that, hey, he was on film for 9 minutes and 29 seconds. There ain't no way in the world that we can defend him. We're going to have to let him go. Let's go ahead and testify against him.
Right.
If it had not been on tape, they would have circled the wagons.
Yeah. We can't say this one, boys. Cut bait.
Yeah, I think he'll get 15 to 20 years.
Yeah, he will.
I'm thinking 15 to 20.
Me too.
I am thinking 15 to 20.
And I honestly think that at least two of those officers are gonna somehow plea, even though I don't really think they have anything to offer. But I think they're going to lean into the fact that they hadn't been around that long, and they're just going to say there's going to be some sympathy for that. It shouldn't be, but it's going to.
They're going to play to it. They are going to play to it. One thing that I did learn also, guys, that kind of I'm not surprised, because as a part of my law enforcement career, I was a detention officer as well for Jail Central downtown Mecklenburg County. I'm not surprised about what I had learned whenever they took Chauvin in. All the officers of color, aka all 9 black officers that would normally work the 5th floor of this maximum security jail, were conveniently removed, reassigned, taken out from that floor. Even when it came to even bringing an inmate in, they were intercepted and transferred to white officers simply because of the color of their skin.
Yeah.
They've already lawyered up. They've already sought out the legal protections and everything. And we're going to see what happens. But definitely not surprised.
Yeah. It's crazy. It's totally crazy. And then, of course, we still have other things. We just had a shooting here in North Carolina. Of course, we've also
in Elizabeth City.
In Elizabeth City, right? Where basically same thing. To what I understand, there was a warrant. They go to serve the warrant. Guy runs away. They shoot him for running away.
It was a no-knock warrant.
Did they show? Was there video released for that or not yet?
They've been slow dragging releasing stuff.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's what some of the complaint is right now with this particular case is that, with Columbus, they wanted to get ahead of it. With Brooklyn Center, they wanted to get ahead of it.
I appreciated what they did in Columbus. I appreciated what they did in Columbus. And,
And that's why they're protesting.
I don't have an issue with what happened in Columbus.
Me either.
That's why they're protesting and standing in front of the jail that's down in Elizabeth City, because they're asking for that body cam video, and they keep on the holding back on it.
And see, here's the problem. Because now other police departments are turning around body cam footage faster. Number one, the toothpaste is out of the tube. Now we know you can do that if you really want to. So now when another police department doesn't do it, and again, like I precluded everything else earlier by saying there is an inherent, we already are skeptical. We think that there's something not quite right with this system. So now when you won't release this footage, and we know that other police departments have done it faster, and you're slow dragging it, why? Is there something on there you don't want us to see? Now we're going to think, what are you trying to hide? What are you covering up? Release the footage.
What was Chicago? The Chicago situation was a 1 or 2 week delay. It was at least a week delay, wasn't it?
Yeah. There was a delay in that. So all these things are starting to happen and come up now. And now Congress is reinforcing, trying to get this George Floyd Act, which I think is a good thing, pushed through. It's going to pass in the House. I think it already did. But the biggest hurdle again is going to be the Senate, because you need the 60 votes to get a glass of water on the floor. And now the senators are going to drag back out the same old crap that they tried in December by bringing out Uncle Tim Scott, the only Republican in the world. I mean, the only Republican senator to lead their side of it. Uncle Tim Scott, that is, from South Carolina, to try to be their face of police reform.
Distraction.
I mean,
Herschel Walker.
But see.
Oh wow!
you can tell she lives. You can tell she lives with me.
Ooh, that hurt. That hurt right there.
I don't like the fact that they think that, hey, if we put a black man out here, how can you resist? Because you guys are saying that this disproportionately affects African Americans, and we bring out our African American, and you guys aren't playing ball with him.
Because Just because he carry our skin color doesn't mean that he can relate or he's on our team.
Well,
There's a lot of.
well, see, here's the thing.
There's a lot of.
He can relate. He can relate. He's spoken clearly about how many times he's been.
There's a lot of modern day Uncle Ruckuses out there.
But well, the problem is that what he also can feel are the headwinds of politics. And even though you're black, if you've joined a political and they like the power and everything, think about it. How many other black people can sit in a Republican state and win election after election after election so easily? That is not, you know, what you would probably have to give up as part of your soul to consistently win year after year as a black Republican senator from the state of South freaking Carolina.
Yeah, you definitely so.
So he can
because just like my man said,
he's only been elected once, right? Has he won re-election?
No, absolutely.
No.
Yeah.
But he will be backed up by the Republicans, just simply because he, at the request of your boy Lindsey. I don't care. They're free to do whatever they want to do as long as they're conservative or Republican. They can do whatever they want to do. But
he's been in the Senate since 2013.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
All right, you must have found it faster than me. Okay.
I did. I'm good.
He served a 6-year term.
6-year terms. So yeah, he's been reelected before. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh.
All right.
Okay. Yeah, he serves with Lindsey Graham.
Yep, your boy Lindsey.
We already know who Lindsey Graham. Well, no, we don't, because Lindsey don't know who Lindsey is anymore. But we know what Lindsey does. The fact that Tim Scott can win an election handedly, nobody's primarying him. Hey, they don't care. Like Lindsey said,
he's the token. He is the token.
Pretty much. That's what I'm getting at.
He's the token.
He is. So what I'm saying is that he's not bringing the level of sincerity to the table that we need when we're talking about police reform and stuff like that. So hopefully they do get something worked out. The George Floyd bill is a great piece of legislation. They need to go ahead and pass it. But it's like Blue Lives Matter until they don't for certain politicians. And that's the problem is that police and military get elevated when it's time to, try to, get the crowd behind you and stuff like that. Now, they didn't really need them on January the 6th when they was getting the hell beat out of them. With Trump
murdered.
Yeah.
Murdered.
But any other time when we need to raise funds or, go to police unions and stuff like that, okay, yeah, Blue Lives Matter. It's the Democrats that, are for Antifa and Black Lives Matter.
Huh.
I don't understand how everything is a one or the other. Can Black Lives Matter and us back legitimate policing? Can both things be true?
Not today.
It's like if you support Black Lives Matter,
Brian,
you're anti-police.
Not today.
Brian,
I don't think that's what it says.
Brian, there's a reason why I'm not a police officer now.
Because you killed you killed a lot of people, I heard. That wasn't you?
I'm not talking.
On that note, on that note,
I've seen what he has sitting right next to him.
I know, that's what I'm saying. I heard about a sniper. I'm packing as I'm saying all of this.
That's designated marksman, thank you. And we do not use sniper. That is outdated term.
Okay, I still say stewardess, so you're probably right.
You just dated yourself.
Really? So that means you're looking for on your stewardess to give you some warm peanuts on your flight as well.
Yeah.
Oh God.
And really short dresses.
Oh Lord. Y'all so good. Y'all so stupid, bro.
Anyway, yeah. So I'm just saying. Overall, I think our policing definitely needs to change. We can take comfort that the trial went the way that it should. It's a damn shame that It had to be as airtight. Every rock had to be uncovered. Every witness had to be so credible that the defense couldn't poke any holes in them. That's what really made this trial, if you want to call it a success, was a success because the prosecution made sure that they were thorough. We have seen it flipped around where they didn't even have to come away with a damn murder weapon and some black person serving the rest of their life in jail and stuff like that on the flimsiest of evidence and circumstantial and this and that and the other. Yeah, every T had to be crossed, every I had to be dotted for this to come out the way that it did.
So we can fully expect that the young lady who thought she had her taser and had her Glock, we can fully expect her to walk.
Definitely.
Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
The cop in Chicago is gonna walk. It was too close to call. It's gonna, yeah.
Because he had his hands up.
Lean towards, yeah.
You know what?
Questionable.
Brad, you're right, because I also feel like it's the Obama effect.
Okay.
We gave you one.
Yeah.
You know,
it is definitely
this one gonna have to hold y'all for a while. We ain't putting another cop in jail for a minute.
It is definitely the.
Well, now wait a minute.
It's definitely the white lash.
Right.
It's definitely
wasn't the cop in South Carolina when the guy ran away, shot him in the back. That cop was convicted. Right?
He was
convicted. He was sent to jail. I don't remember what his sentence was. This cop in Atlanta, the fleeing, same situation. You know, he was apprehended and he started fleeing and he shot him in the back. We can expect him to be.
Can we?
As well.
Because the one that shot
I mean, we set the
Blake,
precedent.
The one that shot Blake in Kenosha, they're not going to charge him with anything.
Yeah, they're going to cloud that up. They're going to cloud that up and say that he was reaching for a weapon. They're going to cloud that.
You saw him walk from one side of the car to the other side of the car.
I don't understand that.
And said that he might have had a weapon in the car, and that gave me the right to shoot him in the back 6 times and paralyze him.
Tackle him, beat him in the head with a billy club.
Drag his ass out by his ankles.
Don't let him get to the car.
That would have been an all-out fight. Okay, listen, guys. To this day, like even right now at this moment, I wouldn't mind if I can show y'all me and my brother, and he's my brother in arms. We both served and we both policed together at the same time. He disagrees with me right now, and with love and respect. But we're looking at this 2 different ways. Mm-hmm. I'm looking at it from a moral point of view. He's looking at it from a lawful point of view. And it's just what we're talking about right now. He was the posting, the Facebook posting that I just put up about baby girl getting shot. Mm-hmm. He don't agree with me, and that's fine. But
the one in Columbus, Ohio.
Yes, yes, and it's okay. But the thing about it is, it's hard to argue what is lawful versus what is moral. You know?
Yeah,
because
that's case closed.
Because they are not the same.
In Columbus, Ohio, that is case closed. There's not even going to be a discussion about that one. That was.
And this police officer, I have a feeling, is going to be fine. As far as like they're going to say justified.
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
Now, civilly, he will be held liable. That's what I'm interested in. Will they hold him liable?
I don't know.
Agree that's more of a possibility than the criminal side.
Yeah. And I don't think
criminally, yeah.
It wasn't.
I don't even want to say he got away with it.
You can't say it was a wrongful death. I mean,
yeah, it definitely wasn't a wrongful death.
Right.
But it was an unnecessary death.
I don't know. I don't know if they could sue for. I don't know if they could sue for that.
What you say, Mike? Mike, you shook your head. Mike, you shook your head. I saw it.
Yeah. I did shake my head.
Because
in that case and everything, I don't think that they'll be held liable either way.
Oh, okay. All right. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
That cop got out the car. He had 9 seconds to make a life or death situation. That's serious, bro. That's serious.
Actually, it was faster than
My
that. I
job
thought.
on my worst day, on my worst day times 10, my job is not that difficult. You know what I mean? It's not a life or death situation decision in 9 seconds.
And see that was the whole point, guys, of police officers, and especially in the military. I can't really speak that much on the civilian side of policing because they fucking they freaking suck. But in the military, we live and we breathe sustainment training, and we have kill houses that we would go out to, and to even mix it up even better, we would go to different kill houses in different states. We would work with federal as well as local. We always wanted to keep the different scenarios surprising. Shoot, no shoot situations, different things like that. Situations like this, you come up to a scene, all of a sudden, boom, everybody comes out the house. How do you handle it? How do you handle it? Quick, somebody answer. And always making your adrenaline pump, always making you think and look at hands and different things like that, because you never know. And that's why I'd say so. And the more and more I talk about the training part of it, Mike, I reluctantly agree with you, sir. Yeah. I reluctantly agree with you.
You know, it's funny. I don't know what happens. I guess it's the officer brain. I got two of my best friends, one from high school, one from college, were both retired New York City cops after 20, 22 years, and they can't turn off the cop brain. They can't. The
can't.
Brain, excuse me. They can't turn it off. When you're around them at a cookout or whatever, their eyes are always moving. I mean, they're not in a state of panic, but they're always watching.
Right.
It's like called hypervigilance.
Oh my God! It's amazing. It's amazing.
Can't turn it off.
I'm that way. Ask my wife what it's like to be around me.
You have weapons within arm's reach on both sides of you.
But I don't even need them. Honestly, I don't even need them.
No.
That's how deep my training goes. I've been doing it since I was 18, guys. I'm 47.
All right. We have Rambo here. So anyway, we'll wrap it up for this week. But thank you to the panel for weighing in on the Derek Chauvin murder trial of a convicted murderer. We definitely send our thoughts out to George Floyd's family. This has been a tough time. They had to relive this. They had to see that video over and over and over. It's still not over because there are going to be other officers brought up for similar charges. So they're going to have to continue to relive that. So we always want to keep in mind that no matter what verdict, what settlement amounts have been reached, George Floyd should still be here right now. There are other cases going around in the country where there are a lot of people that have been gone too soon. And what we are still seeing as people of color is the disproportionate amount of times that excessive force or deadly force is used where that person of color does not go home that night. And it still does beg the question, at least for me, that there are more instances where we see white people in the same situations, a lot of times more heavily armed, that somehow or another get to walk away and live. And that's all we really want for us, and especially for our children, is to be able to feel like that, hey, when I grow up, being alive shouldn't be the bar. You know, that should be something that we're guaranteed as citizens of this country, is the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Life, you know, that's in the Constitution. As much as our right-wingers like to point to the Constitution and rights and everything else, what about the right to live? And we need to be able to see all people as having that right to live, not one set of people determining if they're going to let us live. It's not their place to do that. With that said, thank you again to our panel, Lloyd Parker, CJ Jones, Michael Berry, and Mr. Brad Coughlin. This is Brian Parker with Head to Head. We'll see you guys next week. Take care, and even if you've been vaccinated, wear a damn mask. See y'all.
And it's a ticket talking Mazda for the biggest. That's a comma and a comma and a comma. Gotta get it, get it.
And it's a ticket talking Mazda for the